You scared me. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Painting at Home. I am Jean Moss. It is so wonderful to have you all back here today. So today is a wonderful day here in my studio because we are going to be exploring farms. So I have already been hard at work on my farm, and I did a bit of a Google search on this one today because I haven't seen a farm in many, many years, and the only farm I'm actually even really aware of is my sister Joni's thriving ant farm. So today we are going to be looking at how a farm functions, and one of the main things that I found farms have is this thing called a barn. It is simply a large house in which people put tools or animals or, I don't know, storage, who knows. But anything can be in your barn, and I've already got a head start. So let's just keep plugging away at this wonderful barn. Now most barns, from what I saw, are indeed red. So I've started to outline my barn in this very sort of wonderful deep red, but mixture with this wonderful sort of bronze gray. So I let that sort of dry, and now I'm just gonna go back over it, because that is something I have found with watercolor, is that you can actually go back over and just kind of reiterate your lines, right? Which will give them a little bit more shading and just a little bit more of a sense of movement. So play around with your lines as you're working with your watercolor. It's just such a wonderful day here in my studio. I broke my fridge. So now we're just kind of going across, and I'm creating a little bit of depth here, and I'm just going to come back down and create a little bit of shadow. This is so wonderful, this movement that's happening. And then I'm just reiterating these lines that I've already drawn. But because this watercolor is so versatile, I'm just kind of going back over it again. And I'm just going to sort of create a little bit more shading to this. Oh, that's wonderful. And then we're going to just come right across. Yes, and I have my outline for my barn. I wonder if people actually ever paint in barns. I imagine you can. Who knows? Who knows what people do in barns? Okay, so we're just finishing out the outline of my barn, which I've already been hard at work on. And then we're going to start the fun process of shading and texturing, which, as you know, is one of my favorite parts of painting. So we're drawing all the way across. Now the way I've done this, you can see this barn is a little bit on an angle to give a sense that it moves this way. It's moving this way. All right, so I'm caressing my barn towards the back of my page, and I'm just going to keep on right at it because we are on such a roll. I'm going to come across here at the top and just sort of outline this bad boy one more time, this clean, beautiful line, and just sort of blend everything together. And there is my barn. And then we're going to just come right to the back here, boom, and we've added a little bit of shade here, and maybe bring this down here. There we go, beautiful. So now, I'm going to go ahead and start to fill in. I can just only imagine some of the more wonderful things you might see on a farm. I know some people have mentioned, some of my writers who have written into me have mentioned that a lot of our food, in fact, comes from a farm. Who knew? Who knew? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start to fill this in. And I'm going to grab a little bit more red, everybody, because I want to make sure I really capture the red of that barn. I'm going to draw this down just a hair, There we go. We'll draw this down just a hair too, because I want to make sure we capture this on an angle. Now, one thing I am planning to do is draw a little brush up into my barn. So I'm going to just make sure these lines are nice and crispy and nice and clean. And drawing that downward, creating just a little bit more of that angled effect. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. All right, and let's continue on. Now, what I might do, I might do the unthinkable. Bringing out the big guy. Bringing out the big guy. And I've brought a little paper towel today. We're just going to do a little bit of dabbing. And again, I want that very crispy, crispy red. And I'm grabbing even a little bit of this red orange. And we're just going to see what that does. Oh, wonderful. I do need a little bit more water. Not quite as moist as I want to be today. Not quite as moist as I was yesterday. Here we go. Those of you just tuning in, welcome and happy Tuesday, I suppose it is. Day number 2 of our week. I hope you are all having just a wonderful day. It has been a magical day in the studio. I have had to throw out most of my food because my refrigerator did indeed break. But you never know what's going to happen in life. You just kind of go with it, don't you? Here we go. And I'm just drawing this very bright red barn, and it really is turning out just stunning. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of that bronzer just to kind of even things out. There we go. That's just wonderful. And I'm curious if any of you have ever actually even seen a barn. Who knows what they really look like in real life? All right. So I'm grabbing a little bit more of that red, and I'm going to go ahead and take this red all the way to the front. Look at that. And I'm just drawing straight up and down. This is a clean lined barn, which is one of my favorite things to explore. Lines. Lines, in fact, are shapes. Shapes in and of themselves. And they are absolutely worth exploring. For those of you who have never explored a line, I invite you to just explore the lines you see on any given day. And there we go, there's our barn. Wonderful. Now one thing I've made a little bit different, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of blend all this together, but one thing we're going to do is make our roof a little bit, just a little bit different than the red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this sort of bronzish color, and I'm going to mix it with a little black, and then mix it with a little bit of that white. And we're going to see if we can create kind of a gray tone. And there we have that gray tone. Look at that. That's wonderful. We're just kind of spreading it across. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to in fact leave just a little bit of white to give it that antique-y look. A nice little white, and then I'm going to do the same at the top. But I'm going to make the top a little bit whiter yet. Look at that. And just so happens that our tape happens to fall perfectly where I wanted that white. Oh, that is just remarkable. Now, again, I've let my paint dry just a little bit, and that means you can go back and do a couple more things to it if you want. So I'm going to clean up these lines. I'm just going to grab a little bit more of that black. Oh, and I'm going to mix it with this sort of iridescent red, and what the hey, let's do some sparkles. Okay, let's get more of those sparkles, and I'm just going to start to shade some of these lines. Give this a little bit of movement. There we go. Look at that. And I'm creating a little bit of shade here. You can see the different movements of, I think barns are in fact made of wood. Oh, I love wood. I hope you love wood just as much as I love wood. Here we go. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on back to that brush, and I might add a little bit of texture to my roof. Now, what's kind of fun is as we've explored this sort of horizontal brush, you can do so many fun things. So I grabbed a little bit of that brown, and we're going to create just a little bit of what looks like a little wood. Look at that. It's so wonderful. So we're just going to go ahead and create a little bit of texture. It's just terrific. Just terrific indeed. Okay, so one final thing I want to do to my barn. I want to go ahead, after I clean up these lines, we're going to add a little bit of windows to these barns. So I'm just going to go back to my red and to my little iridescent sort of bronze color, and we're just going to clean up these lines. Oh, look at that crispy color. Oh, that is crispy indeed. We're just going to sort of shade that and just kind of bring everything together here. Create a little bit of color. And as I said before, with watercolor, as I'm learning, the more I'm exploring it, the more versatile it's becoming indeed. Now we're just taking that down and just kind of blending everything. For those of you joining in, today is my tribute to the farms. I had a suggestion from someone who wrote in and said, Jean, I would love to see what your version of a farm looks like. And I said, that is just the craziest thing I've ever heard. But let's give it a go. And I'm just cleaning up these lines here. There we go. Oh, I love this little jazzy tune we have in the background. It's so jaunty. I hope you're listening to some jaunty music yourself. Maybe singing some jaunty music. I don't know. And I'm just coming down just to kind of give this a sense of a little bit of a roof. This barn is coming together so beautifully. There we go. Here's our little roof. And we're just kind of making this a nice clean line here. There's our movement. And then of course, this little bit of movement there. There we go. And I'm going to add a little bit of black to this because I want to capture the sense that this is a far so good on our little barn. I'm going to give that a moment just to dry before I add my windows, because if you give it a minute to dry, then you can actually give yourself a moment to add more on top of it. If you leave it wet, it's likely things will start to blend together, which is absolutely fine. You can blend whatever you want together. Find various items around your household and you blend them. Maybe it's lemon juice and bleach. Makes a wonderful cleaner. Let's jump over to our scenery now. One thing I thought to add in the background, I'm thinking a little bit outside of the box today, and I would like to explore perhaps a new material with this. We are going to explore a fence. Oh, I love a good fence. I have one around my bedroom. It looks just wonderful. So I'm going to use this wonderful brown marker in the background. I'm just going to draw a little fence back here. I might draw, a line. Why not? There's a line back there. Now again, we have discussed this, but let me reiterate. The fatter side of the marker will in fact create a thicker line. And you all know how much I love my girthy lines. So I'm drawing a nice girthy line for the top. It's just going to disappear right in the back. I'm going to create a little post. There's my little post. Look at that, there's a post. Good, and there's another post. Let's see, right in the middle here. Another little post. And I'm just drawing little squares for my posts. And then one is just going to disappear right in the back. Just using my imagination here. I invite you to use your imagination often as you can. Now I'm going to take this post down using the thicker side of my marker. Watch this. Before your very eyes, we're creating a longer fence. Here's my fence. And I'm going to use my thicker marker and just drag these little bad boys down all the way. And there's our fence, shaping up beautifully. Now this one I want to be extra careful because it's a little bit closer to the barn. So we are going to just pull that down this way. Look at that. And there's the beginnings of our little fence. And then we draw one extra line. Look at that. And I'm just going to thicken these posts up nice and girthy. Nice and girthy. I just love that word girthy. It sounds a little bit like earthy. Let's get back to our line. And there's our fence, everybody. Easy as pie right there. Easy as pie. My little fence. Wonderful. Now, next thing, I'm going to jump on back to these watercolors. Do you hear that fun music in the background? Oh boy, I just love it. I just love it. Now we're going to go ahead into our greenery. So I'm going to create a little bit of a dirt road. First and foremost, so I've wet my big brush, and I've got this beautiful iridescent brown. I'm going to mix it with my glittery brown. There we go. And we're just going to start to draw, a little dirt road back here. There's a little dirt road, some rock. Looks wonderful. I'm going to pat my brush a little bit more. It's a little damp. Don't ever want to be too damp. Maybe you do. It's up to you. And this road's just going to sort of disappear. Here we go. A little bit of road coming together just beautifully. There's our little road. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that sort of sit for a moment. And then we're going to color it in with a little bit of green. I'm going to color it in with a little bit of green. But first, I want to jump over to one of my favorite things ever to draw, and that is, of course, a tree. Let's jump in. So I'm taking my thinner brush, very skinny indeed, and I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into my brown, and I think my tree kind of pops up, maybe right here. I'm going to take this brown, and you know what? Hey, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of black, just to get a darker brown. Mixing colors is so very fun. Here we go. And there's the start of my tree, and I'm just going to draw it up a couple of different ways. Here's the start of my tree. Look at that. And I have a plan to make this a very big tree. Lots and lots of leaves, filled with birds maybe. Who knows? Who knows? You fill your trees with whatever you want to. Maybe eggs. Whatever you wish. Okay, so we're just going to draw this right up here. Look at that shading. Look at that shading. And then I'm actually going to make this kind of a little girthier at the bottom, because one thing about trees is they tend to have some roots. There we go. There's our tree. And I've got just a couple little branches coming out there. A couple little branches. And now we jump back to our big guy. Big bad paintbrush. Okay. Hope everyone had a wonderful Monday. For those of you who tuned in yesterday, we played a little bit with washable marker on your face. I would recommend it. When you do in fact wash it off, it's not as easy as you think. All right, here we go. Grabbing that green, and this is the fun part. This is the part I always look forward to, and that's drawing in our greenery. So I'm really getting in there with my brush, just penetrating that paint with my big old brush, and we're just going to start to create texture. Look at that. Well, it's getting a little wetter than I would like, and you never want to be too wet. You want to be just a little bit damp, if anything. There we go. And this is just going to go all over. I'm even going to have it sneak a little bit in front of my barn. Look at that. This is wonderful. And then we're going to give this a moment to dry here in a moment, jump on back to my barn, and then we're going to come back to that beautiful tree, and we're going to just kind of add a little bit more texture. And this tree is just going to grow up to the sky. That's wonderful. Look at that. Just a big old tree right in the middle of everything, huh? Just growing up as high as it can, and maybe out a little bit. Wonder what kind of tree this might be. Who knows? There we go. And make sure you use both sides of your brush. There we go. It's coming out so beautifully. It's going to just disappear behind. And there's a little bit of our tree. So now we've got our barn, we've got our fence, we've got our dirt road. I'm going to give those a minute to dry. And let's jump on back to our little bit of our barn. And we're going to add a little window so that you can peek in and see what's inside. Who knows what's inside? Maybe it's children playing Duck, Duck, Grey Duck. Or Duck, Duck, Goose, depending on where you live. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our little iridescent here. And I'm going to grab a little bit of that black. There we go. And I'm just going to draw little windows here. There's one. And they're very simple. They're just squares. Just four-sided squares. And I'm being very gentle, very careful with my square. There's one. Here we go. Let's do that again. That was more fun than I have had in a long time. I love drawing squares. Look at that. This one I might play around. I might make this a little bit less sharp. Look at that. This is the most charming little farm. Call it farming. Just made up a word. Here we go. Drawing with our iridescent and our black. Draw a couple more windows here. There we go, just a couple. Being very gentle. There we go. And how about just two more? Maybe a smaller one back here. Okay. Beautiful. That's wonderful. And one more. Why not? Now, one thing we have not talked a lot about, but I would love to talk about it, and that is grass. The kind that grows in the ground is just gorgeous. So, one final thing I want to do, I'm going to add a little bit of a window. I'm feeling a little bit like something's missing here in the front. So I'm going to add a little window here, but I might make it similar to the shape, look at that, of the barn. So I'm going to just draw this one a little bit different than the ones on the side. Look at that. Oh, wonderful. And it is just a delicate stroke, everyone. Make sure you're very careful in your stroking. There we go. Just a little doodad of a window. And there we have it. Filling it right in. It's just gorgeous. Look at that. And there's our little barn. Oh, who knew? Who knew it would be so delightful, this little farm. Now, I'm going to jump on back to my big brush. And we're going to go ahead and add, I'm thinking a little bit of grass right around the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that lighter green, but then also some of my glitter green. Because why not have a little bit of glitter? I think so. And we're going to take a little bit of that darker green too, and then, oh, what the hey, how about a little bit of brown? Because as we've explored in our hillsides, and again, make sure you're not too damp. You want to be as damp as you want to be. Who knows? And we're just going to draw some grass straight up. But what I'm doing is I'm using, look at that, I'm using the vertical portion of my brush. And one thing I want to do is maybe add a little more black to this. Because the sun's not quite as bright over here. And we're going to just make this grow all the way up. That's right. Yes. All the way up. There it is. Now what I might do is once this is dried, I'm going to go ahead and use my horizontal side and just start to blend this all in. Once this is dried, I might add a few just blades by themselves. Coming together just beautifully. I'm going to take this all the way down. All the way down. Why not? And right over here by our little fence, maybe some bushes over there, we're going to grab a little bit of that green and just give my bushes a start. I love a good bush. Oh, do I love a good bush. I have just the most wonderful bush in my studio. It is the most beautiful bush, and I'm just going to add a couple little greens over here. Yes, beautiful. I'm just filling this in over here. Little greens, little grass, little who knows, whatever. Whatever you want it to be. I'm going to jump right into that road again and just let that kind of bleed over there. Here we go. I hope you all are taking a chance on a farm today. Some kind of farm, maybe where you live. Here we go. We're just going to let that grow right up. There we go. And then I'm even going to add some green over here. Because why not? It's just going to fill right in. Look at that. Gorgeous. So far, so good, everybody. So far, so good. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to explore what is in the background. I am imagining some corn husks. For those of you who don't know, a corn husk does not belong on an elephant. It is in fact where our corn grows. So we're going to draw a couple of those. See, in the background, I might as well grab a little bit of yellow, and I'm just going to grab a little bit of husk back here. They kind of grow up and then down. So we're going to draw a few of those, just ups and downs. Just a couple of husks in the background. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And I might just fill that in. And what's wonderful is you can kind of just go in and out of marker. So what I may do for fun, oh, who knows? Maybe just add a little bit of marker to my husks. These are just going to grow right up back there. Maybe a couple of taller ones, who knows? And these are my husks. Look at that. And they're just very broad strokes. Maybe one's growing right in front of the barn. And there's my corn husks back there. One fun thing you can do, let me show you this because it is just so fascinating. I'm going to grab a little bit of this gold. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to draw a little bit of corn in here. There's a little bit of corn. And there's a little bit of corn. And I'm just drawing sort of a circle. It's been a while since I've had corn, but from what I remember, it is yellow. And I'm just going to draw a few of those, and we'll zoom in later and take a look. There we go. Look at how this is all coming together. I'm thrilled. I'm going to add one more tree over here because you know me and how much I love my trees. So we're going to grab a little bit more paint, and I'm going to grab a little bit of my brown. Look at that. And some of that lovely iridescent. And we're going to draw one more big tree back here. This is a big guy, just kind of in the background. Maybe somewhere in the distance looking in. Look at that. Big old tree. Big old tree. And I think today, this tree runs all the way off the page because he is just a rogue son of a gun. Look at that. And then I think there's my rocks. Just a couple. You know I always love a good rock. A place to rest on the tree. There we go. Big old rock there. Some ways you can just sit and read a book. Why not? Here we go. Grabbing a little bit more of that brown. We're going to just grab all the way up here. Look at that. Yes. I love drawing trees. It is absolutely the most relaxing thing. Sometimes my mind just completely goes away from me when I draw trees. Who knows what I'm thinking about? Just a life of trees. There it is. And there's our big old rock here. Beautiful. And of course, you know we'll finish off with our sky. But first of all, I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of that green with my bigger brush. And we're going to just kind of go to town on this tree. We are just going to go nuts on this tree. Here we go. So I'm going to grab my sparkles, and this one's going to have a little bit more of a rounded top. Maybe this tree didn't quite finish growing, huh? Here we go. There's our tree. It's running right off the page there. And maybe into this tree. Maybe they're becoming friends. Who knows? And again, my brush, you never want it to be too damp, although around a tree, who knows? Trees can sometimes be a little bit wet and a little bit damp indeed. So we're just going to let that kind of happen. There you go. There's two trees, and they're just kind of giving each other a little bit of a hug, which I just think is so adorable. Okay, we are just about finished with our farm here, everybody, and what we're going to do to sort of finish off, I'm going to really wet my brush here, get that as wet as I possibly can, just get nice and soaked in here, and then we are going to just grab the most beautiful blue and purple for our sky. So here's our blue, here's our purple, and then I'm grabbing this beautiful light purple. It's right here, and it is just exquisite. We're going to mix that with a little bit of that blue. Make sure it's not too terribly dark, so I'm going to just add a little bit more white too. We're just going to do a soft stroke across the sky. And look at that. Look at how gorgeous that becomes. Just right on our farm, right in our trees. Look at that. This is just coming together absolutely beautifully. Our little farm on which we're growing some corn. Who knows? Maybe some beans. I've heard they grow those on farms too sometimes. And I'm grabbing that blue and that beautiful purple, and then of course I'm mixing in a little of that white because we don't want our sky to get too terribly dark. We just want it to be as gentle. Ooh, look at all that splatter. Sometimes there is splatter when you play with watercolor. Don't disparage, don't you worry. Splatter is very easy to clean up in certain situations. And we're just going straight across. There we go. And I'm just going to sort of lightly fill in the back here. That's beautiful. Just some of these little spots back here. And maybe some of these little spots, pull that down. And blending just a hair. And remember to use both sides of your brush. You never want to leave anyone out while you're painting. And I've got one more little bit, and then we'll be finished with our fabulous farm here today on our wonderful Tuesday. Here we go, grabbing a little bit more of that white. Got a little bit blue there, but that's okay. It will fade, and I'll just simply drag it over. There we go, look at that. It's just gonna come right into our little house here. Have a little more of that purple. How about it? Look at that. Grab a little more water, and what's great is if anything gets a little too dark, you can always just grab a little water and it'll simply blend. So I love watercolor. It is so fun to play with. There we go. And there's our little farm, friends. How about that? Came together, and I've never even seen a farm in the last at least 30 years. So let's jump in, have a look at our little farm. We've got our big, beautiful trees. And if you zoom in even closer, you might even see a little bit of corn. Golden shower of corn. There it is. Just a beautiful little barn. Sitting there with maybe some tools, maybe some feed, maybe some, I don't know. Beautiful sky. Imagine this is where our food comes from. Amazing. Looks very different from my sister Joni's ant farm. How fun to explore new things in your life, new places you've never been before. I invite you all to think of something, someplace that you've never seen, and use your imagination and just see what comes to you after you Google it, of course. This has been another wonderful episode of Painting at Home. I am Jean Moss, and have a fabulous Tuesday and a farm-filled dinner.